say, okay, I have a lot of money, but you have no money unless you take profits.
When the first ever spot ETF was created for gold 10x.
And the only thing I really knew was Bitcoin at the time, so I just invested very heavily into that. Rode it all the way up.
What's up?
My name is Jeff. Even the creators have said it's going to be the predecessor of CBDC.
What that taught me was that I need to be self-sufficient.
A solid DCA investment strategy, and pretend the red sell button doesn't even exist.
We about to go up like.
Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, and degens of all ages. We're back for the third installment of Book Club. Tonight, we're going to be talking about Reminiscences of a Stock Operator. I got to give a shout out to Charlie from Cultivate Crypto. He is the one that put me onto this book for a long time. He always mentions it, talking about the emotionality of trading and what the life of a trader looks like. If you talk to any person that has a professional living on Wall Street, they will probably tell you that this is a bit of the Bible when it comes to stock trading. So we are very excited to get into this and talk about how it can relate to our crypto journeys and also just good asset management and building wealth in the future. We have a little bit of a modified book game. Some of our club is out due to sickness. We hope they get better very soon, but we still thank them very much for producing and being an excellent part of the team. First and foremost, I'm going to send it over to my co-host, Will. Will, how you doing, man?
Well, aloha, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, teachers of all shapes and sizes. I'm doing pretty good. Just driving down I-35 yet again. I seem to be finding myself on this interstate quite a lot, during podcast time. I'm not sure what the deal is with that, but hey, it is what it is. I'm excited to get into this book, man. It was a really good read. I enjoyed it. There was a lot of really cool old language inside. A lot of phrases I didn't understand. A lot of stock terms that I had to look up and try and research and stuff. But it's a great book, man. I definitely read it to anyone who's trying to get in the crypto space. Mr. Nate, bro, what's going on with you, man?
Oh, having fun. I'm kind of working with a new setup and all that. I did not get to finish the book, unfortunately. However, I'm going to be here and give my input because, as far as I can tell, the the book is basically just about trying too hard to tell the future when nobody can tell the future.
Makes sense. I got to say, this book is a bit of a fun look into the past about the early 1900s. For a bit of a reference, the book takes place between 1895 through about 1929-ish. The SEC was actually created in 1934, and all of this book is pre-SEC. So it's kind of the Wild West and from a financial market sort of perspective. So it's a good time. For anybody that might not have read the entire book, that is totally okay. Not all of this book is entirely relevant. If you go look at the Wikipedia, it does a nice job of summarizing the certain parts of it. You can kind of break it down into three main phases. Phase one was the early days of when he was trading these things called bucket shops. It was basically like sports bookies that relied on the telegraphs of the current stock market prices that come in, so that the idea was basically chumps come in there, try to effectively bet on the price of items, stocks, commodities going up or down, and then they would take a rake or a cut of all the different trades. So the idea was basically yeah, sure, everyone's just coin tossing, but as long as we're taking 2 or 3%, you should be fine, and we'll make money off of it. So that's phase one. Phase two is when our main character actually goes to the New York Stock Exchange and starts dealing with the big boys. This is where you see a lot of the professional trader knowledge come into play and a lot of the lessons learned. And then the last third of the book talks a lot about market manipulation and how when you start playing at that super high level of giant bags and you're actually dealing with large chunks of the economy itself, you can start to see price fluctuations. You can start to see moves being made by other people. It's interesting stuff to talk about from a 4D chess perspective, but at the same time, that part of the book is honestly not super relevant to a lot of the financial principles that we try to talk about on Book Club. I will say though, the second to last chapter is, I think it's one of the best chapters specifically for dealing with the crypto world, because it talks about the idea of getting market tips and then how can you trust the press of companies that are coming out. And then you see these moves where it's people will not say anything, not even give their name for quotes, talking about stocks. And while they're in like an accumulation phase before they go into the actual pump and dump in the end eventually. All right. That was a long time. Before we get to it, do you guys have any favorite parts of the books you want to shout out first?
I honestly like the beginning part of the book where he's talking about his time as a young man. He's going to all these bucket shops. And he's basically just like taking people's money and getting kicked out because he's too good at the game and they can't handle it. And he's like, just a teenager and stuff. And so he's cleaning out these professional gambling arenas because he has a particular set of skills. That was my favorite part.
That is a fun part. It definitely kind of feels like Vegas, where like those professional gamblers get kicked out of casinos because they're like, all right, you're too good. We don't want to take your action. Go away. Kind of funny. Nate, from the stuff you read, do you remember any parts that tickled your fancy?
Not really. Kind of boring.
All right, that's fair. I will say this. I don't know if we've purposely done this, but this book, and then specifically The Richest Man in Babylon, there's a little bit of some old English thrown around there and old timey speak. So I guess you got to be ready for it a bit. That's fine. Okay. I'm going to do a quick summary of some of the main points and a bit of the synopsis and story of the book. And then after that, we have 3 main discussion topics that we're going to be talking about tonight. So with that said, let's get into it. Reminiscences of a Stock Operator is actually, it's kind of pseudo-fiction. It's based off a real person. His name was Jesse Livermore. He was a large American stock trader he was born 1877, died in 1940, a little bit tragically. We'll cover that at the end. It's spicy. But the author basically wrote this as kind of like a slightly fictionalized account of his journey through the stock market and trading and all the lessons that he learned. So starting off as a boy, he traded in the bucket shops that we talked about a little bit earlier. Basically, the idea was that he worked in bucket shops, and he just like was naturally around the market so much that he kind of was like that savant that could like see through the numbers, and like it was a lot of feeling and it was a lot of intuition very early on of understanding how prices fluctuate and how you can look at the market and make short-term plays to try to scalp stuff pretty quick. Like Will said, he actually got so good at it that a lot of these bucket shops ended up kicking him out because they were just losing so much money on him. The character goes through a lot of boom and bust cycles. In the first one, he basically makes up to about $10,000 in the bucket shops, and then he tries to go to Wall Street, loses it, and then he goes on like this crazy journey across the U.S. to try to find bucket shops that don't know who he is so he can like make his money back and go back to Wall Street to learn it. That's a fun part. After that, we actually get to Wall Street. So he works at a stock trader on the New York Stock Exchange. And then this is where he realizes that his short-term plays weren't working because he was getting a lot of slippage between when he would place an order and when his telegram actually got to the market, was filled, and then the information was sent back to him. So his short-term trading strategy no longer worked. He went through, again, what got rich, got broke multiple times. But this is where the guy learned that going off short-term trading is not going to work in this game, and he quickly learned to trade in longer terms or longer cycles of basically bull and bear markets. And that was some of the stuff he got. Later on, the guy actually he gets all the way up to about $1 million, goes flat broke around 1910, and then hits a dry spell. And then eventually one of his good friends who also is in the industry ends up extending him a little bit of a line of credit where he uses this to make a single play to get him back on his feet and get his bag reaccumulated so he can start trading again and again. After this, he does it successfully and then kind of goes on another bit of a bull run. And at this point in the book, he starts talking about trading in commodities and a lot of other stuff like corn, cotton, steel. And then there's even a good chapter on government intervention. Specifically, he was trying to trade coffee after World War I, but then the government thought that he was taking up too much of the market, so they actually regulated him specifically, even though he points out, he's like, look, I technically don't have this cornered. Other markets are much worse. This is just government actors getting a story in their head and acting on it. So,
yeah, so can I hop in there real quick on that one, Casey?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so the frickin' it wasn't the government that initially made this fault. It was like a private company over in Germany that was doing all the shipping of the raw coffee. They lobbied for the government to take action. They were like, hey, these American consumers deserve like the low prices of coffee, blah da da da. And so they basically like forced the price of the coffee down after he had like played the stock very well to expect it to go on a crazy rise, and he would like pull a massive amount of money out of his trades. And then the lobbyists like saw he was going to make a bunch of money at their expense. or not the lobbyists, the company, and so they lobbied the government to put a forced price on the price of raw coffee, and then it caused a very long pause in the market that caused him to not make a whole bunch of money, and then he had to exit his position or whatever. And then eventually afterwards, the price of the coffee went crazy and did a whole bunch of really dumb things. It ended up screwing the consumer out even worse than what would have happened just from regular old homeboy buying and selling the coffee on the trades and stuff. So that part was pissing me off real good. Good old lobbying.
Good old government intervention.
Government intervention, man.
Yeah, screw that, man. Government intervention. It's it kind of reminds you of a little something that's happening right now with the SEC and crypto.
Yeah, go figure. Nothing new under the sun here. Happened in the early 1900s or happens in the early 2000s. Go figure. All right, that does bring us towards the end of the book when it comes from a synopsis standpoint. However, just as a bit of a fun note, I will point out we are talking specifically about the fundamental principles that we can derive from the book, because unfortunately with this man, he discovered that with more money in life, unfortunately comes more problems. I think the guy ended up going and having 3 marriages. His second marriage actually ended kind of horrifically, where his ex-wife got pissed off and tried shooting their son. Didn't kill the kid, but, firearms and shooting your family, not good, especially it is Thanksgiving time, or we have gotten past it now, so hopefully there was no firearm-related accidents this year. And then, unfortunately, I'll say this. The guy, Jesse Livermore, made his biggest success during the Great Depression, actually, because he shorted the whole thing. The guy made $100 million in 1929. So in today's money, that's literally over $1 billion, maybe even over $10 billion if we want to do the math. So that was absolutely wild. Unfortunately, he continued to use a lot of risk, made some bad plays, went bankrupt again, got divorced again, and then tragically, he ends up taking his own life in 1940 in the hotel of a place where he used to go and drink and hang out. And the suicide note actually talks about I am a failure. I can't take this anymore. I'm sorry. I love you. I failed you. Peace. And then just... So, super fun, right?
That is crazy. Wait, so
it's wild.
Basically had $10 billion in today's funds and then lost it all?
Yep, in 1934.
Do you know what that reminds me of? DCC's opening where you got the who is it, Warren Buffett, and then I can't remember the guy's name, but he's like, "Oh, how's your portfolio going?" Warren Buffett's like, "Oh, 320. I'm up from 280 from yesterday." And he's like, "Didn't you start with $8 billion or whatever?" 82 billion.
That's not Warren Buffett, is it? That's someone else.
No, that was the Warren Buffett one.
They use a Warren Buffett video, but they just put captions over it to create a fake conversation.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And he just awkwardly look at each other, and he's just like, "Don't day trade."
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, for reference, when the guy filed bankruptcy for the 3rd time in 1934, he listed that he had $84,000 in assets and $2.5 million in debts. So, yeah, kind of wild. All right, boys, are we ready to get to our discussion?
Yeah, dude, let's do it.
All right, topic number 1 that we want to talk about is the early days of Livingston versus when he actually joined Wall Street. The thing is, he realized that he was able to trade on instinct early on and do those short-term scalps in the bucket shops, but then he had to learn the act of trading over a long-term period of time and start looking at bull and bear market cycles. One of the best quotes that I have from the book is that the guy says, "Traders beat themselves by not sitting tight." Basically, this is a reference to, as a trader, if you are going to try and trade a lot, you're going to wreck yourselves. This is a common theme that I think we see in the cryptosphere a lot, which is people saying that, look, there's 2 groups of people that get rich here. The first is founders, and the other is the buy and hold people. So the traders, a lot of times you just get wrecked, especially in our world, because there's so much volatility in the market. What do you guys think?
Well,
Trading versus long-term holding.
The number one thing that, unfortunately, people in crypto do is they start leveraging, and leveraging ultimately is trading, right? Yep. And it blows my mind because crypto is so volatile that it leverages itself. And so when you're sitting there just holding onto a coin, you're like, I mean, yeah, you need to figure out the cycles and then hold for the cycle, right? But then you get these people who, and I mean, God bless them, but Dre and Niles, those two, they're going kind of ham wild with the ratio trading. And I personally, like, I work too much to be kind of degenning like that. And it's working out for them. They're doing good, but even they themselves, like, I think it was Dre the other day, he was like, yeah, I'm going to stop doing this for a little bit because I know eventually I'm going to be, I'm going to get wrecked over here. And I was like, yeah, you can't continually have success like that. And I've made a few plays myself where I saw that, like, hey, it looks like I could make a trade here and make some more coins off of it. And it worked. And I immediately was like, okay, I'm not doing it again. I'm going to back out. I'm going to back out of this one. And it actually worked out. But yeah, you need, it's just, I don't know, trying to be a day trader has got to be the most stressful thing of all time, because you're just sitting there staring at the screen and you're trying to predict the future. Like, okay, you can guesstimate the future, but I mean, it's still a guess.
You're not wrong. A lot of it, it's a lot of feel and like intuition and trying to like identify patterns that have a probability of repeating. I've done a little bit of options trading in my past and some longer term like swing trading for stocks. But even then, it was a lot of effort for a lot of risk with moderate rewards. At the end of the day, I ended up breaking about even. Granted, I was trading around like 2021.
I think that
What's up?
Oh, snap,
Bill,
my
you're
bad. I
loud,
think
we
I
can't
cut
hear
out
you,
there for
bro.
a second. Apologies if I
Yeah, you did.
interrupted you.
No, you're
Oh,
good. Go for it.
snap. Okay, you can hear me?
Yes.
Check. Oh, damn it. All right. I might be driving through a bad portion of Interstate 35, so stop me if my audio is terrible. But the thing that I was thinking about is, like, with each trade that you make, with each swap, you have the possibility of like introducing a mistake. So like the more potential mistakes you make, the more opportunity that you have to like zero yourself out or just do something totally dumb, or like maybe not zero yourself out, but find yourself out of position where you no longer have the asset that you want that's going to ride the waves of appreciation and things. So I think that's really the best way that I can understand it is the more trades you make, the more opportunity you give yourself to make a bad trade. That's just how I see it. So if you make one trade to get in and one trade to get out, then it's like, hey, can't really mess that up.
Absolutely. I think you got a good point there, which is if you're trying to make those small short-term trades, you can absolutely find yourself in positions where you're just out of place for your longer-term goals, which is, for example, I'll throw this out there. I know we like to cover the 60-day cycle, and I'm particularly guilty of it because I'm trying to like understand this the most that I can. But if you try and trade a 60-day cycle and it goes somewhere that you don't think it is, you might be on the opposite end of it. So like, for instance, we've had all these giant like green candles on Bitcoin lately. If you thought, I mean, granted on the show, we've thought that we were headed down to about 25K, maybe even like 21,500 Bitcoin. And instead we pumped all the way up to 38,000 now. So it's like, if you were trying to trade a lot of your bag to gain in that time, you could have missed out on effectively a 40% pump and been left in the dust, which means that now your cost basis for Bitcoin, if that's what you're trying to hold for the longer term bull market, is going to be much higher than if you had just like DCA'd and kept consistent and just maintained that gradual dollar cost average over time. You'd be in a much better place. Again, it's the possibility for short-term gain, but at the sacrifice of potential long-term losses as well.
Yeah,
See, I've been.
It's like, I was just gonna say something that like some people might consider DCAing to be a form of trading. I would say it's just an extended entry. That's all that DCA is. It's not really, you're not trading back and forth. You're moving in one direction. Investing is different than withdrawing, right? If you're investing, withdrawing, that would be what I would call trading. So correct me if I'm wrong in my interpretation there, but that's a little point of specification I wanted to make. Nate, go ahead.
Okay, so I'll use myself as an example here, right? So I've been in a couple of degen plays that were literally launches, right? Shitcoin launches. And when you're doing that, you're watching like the 15-minute or hour chart, right? And you're trading back and forth. taking profits, and then putting money back in, taking profits again, and putting money back in. And what I found to work really good was, number one, I do understand how these launches tend to work, right? When drops are going to happen, when, just based off of experience. But the other thing that I was doing to make sure, and this is where you get like the feeling, right, of what's going on, the patterns, is I was actually watching the buy and sells on chain. And when I started seeing a whole lot of green buying, I was like, all right, I'm going to be one of those greens. So that would buy in. And next thing you know, it would start shooting up like this. And because, I was actually dealing with more money than a lot of these other people were, I could see myself actually bump the price, which was actually kind of hilarious. But then I start seeing a certain amount of red sells coming in versus how many greens are going in. I'm like, oh, I'm getting out. So then I pull out, and then here we go, starting to drop really bad again. And I made about 3 of those in a row, and the last one I actually lost money on. And I was like, yeah, okay. So I did good, and then I lost a little bit, and it's like, all right, so I'm technically up. Let me just stop this.
I hear you. I gotta say, trading on intuition, I understand where it comes from, and I can understand that if you see patterns repeated over time, you can kind of understand the market and have that gut reaction and that experience. However, I gotta say, hats off to the guys back in the old days, because they did not have nearly the amount of on-chain data that we have now for everything. Like back in the day, the guys used to have to figure out what they want to do, submit the order, have it go as a telegram across the country to the actual stockbroker on the floor, get the order executed, and then give it back. And then they would have to, this is like hour or two at the, I would imagine, where you like submit it, get your order confirmation, and then you have to read the tape and be like, all right, I did this in that time. The market has done this. No advanced graphics or computers for charts. They had to just like look at the numbers and figure out, all right, where are we on this? So like back in the day, that's some hard stuff. It definitely feels a little bit like some voodoo magic and whatnot, but like I gotta say, back in the day, those guys did it. They did it live.
Dude, like, I'm just thinking of like when you're on a video game server and you can see the ping, so you can tell how much delay is between when you move your mouse and when your guy like aims his gun and shoots and stuff. It's just like they had 2 hours worth of ping. I don't know how many milliseconds that would be.
That's insane to think about.
That's a lot.
That's a good analogy. That is a good analogy.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy. Doesn't that make you like just appreciate where you're at, right? Because we can just in here click, and in like maximum a minute, right? But usually like just 10 seconds. Then bam, we've made the switch and everything. We've gotten the orders in. Like, oh, it's just crazy how it was back then.
Definitely. I will say this though. As for those guys had such little data, however, I would almost argue now that we have so much data, it's hard sometimes if you don't know what you're doing to actually look at all of it and be able to evaluate the data in front of you and say, what if this is useful? What if this is noise? And what can I actually look at for reliable input? So on-chain data is fantastic, but there's so much.
You also have to consider that the meta of the entire ecosystem has changed, like the zeitgeist. I don't know if that's the right use of the word zeitgeist, but like the whole, like there were not as many people that lived in America back then. There are a ton of people in America now, and so like you scale up the number of people that are involved in this thing. You scale up the fact that like big businesses can put tons of money into research, right? There's all this data, so the barrier of entry like grows exponentially as the number of people increase. So like, yeah, a normal dude could be a savant in a bucket shop back then, but like a normal dude going up against, like BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, like guys that have just loads of money, loads of experience, loads of experts at their fingertips. Like there's more people in the game. The game is harder. There's more information, and just like the amount of competition is just like skyrocketed. So it's like, yeah, I'm almost envious of the dudes that had the opportunity to figure it out on their own, and could like take in a little bit of amount of data, find a way to interpret it, and then like make a load of money off of it. Whereas now it's like, dude, your barrier to entry, good luck, man. It is crazy in the stock world. And then that's just discounting crypto, which is running 24/7, right? 7 days a week. Like it's a totally different scenario, and everything's so much faster.
Yeah, it's faster. There's There are more. See, here's the thing too. Think about it like in crypto terms, okay? You've got, what is it, like 29,000 different types of coins and tokens and all that. So, I mean, imagine that only in the stock market, but that's like 29,000 businesses in the United States, right? Whoa, that's an awful lot, you know? And these are all separate businesses with different ecosystems and everything. So I would agree, yeah, Zenith, there's definitely an overload nowadays. And I definitely agree, Will, where it's like, yeah, it's almost harder, but yet it's easier. I would say, I'll put it this way, right? It's more efficient, but it's also a bit harder.
That makes sense
for sure.
to me.
Like think about playing lacrosse as a Native American back in the 1700s versus playing lacrosse right now. Like what did a Native American need to play lacrosse, right? Like an everyday normal guy could hop in, grab a stick, and throw a ball around. Whereas like nowadays, if you want to play like college lacrosse or if you want to play like professional lacrosse, like good fucking luck, man. You got to be like beefed up, jacked up, on top of your game. Just like the zeitgeist of the experience has totally changed.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a reference to football. Back in the day, you know, back in the 60s, all you had to do was like be like physically able to, you know, be good at sports physically, right? Nowadays, if you're looking at that, we have so much data where they've looked into every single last bit of movement and exactly what is efficient and what is not. And they have it down to numbers that they specifically look at a human being, say, can he hit these numbers? And then if he can hit the numbers, then yes, you know, look at the arm length, right? Look at the height of the guy, exactly when he throws the ball, what is the exact angle of it and everything, you know, how much pounds per square inch is his muscles putting out. And they have all these numbers and you have to hit those just to get to a certain level, right, in the NFL. And it's absolutely mind-boggling where there's no magic anymore in the world. There's only everything has been scienced down. And that's why I almost kind of envy those guys back then, because as a Wild West, even though we're in crypto now, we still have those numbers and kind of like the over amount. But back then, it was like, what can I do? You know, let me just try and figure this out with my own brain.
I will say, though, I'm glad we have air conditioning now. They didn't have that back then. So while I am a little bit envious, the rest of me is like, you know what? I kind of like having all my teeth inside my head. I kind of like being able to turn on the cold air. I kind of like having Uber Eats every now and again, you know?
Oh, for sure. I got to say, Will, you brought up, you had a point there that I didn't have in my show notes, but I think is super critical for talking about this book, which is that these guys back in that time were figuring it out all on their own. And one of the things that the author constantly talks about again is like every time he learns a lesson, it's usually marked as a big loss. And he had to learn the lesson the hard way because there was no one else to learn from back in the time. Like specifically, one of the examples was the guy was like on vacation, and then even on vacation, this dude is like the original degen. He would still stop by like a field office that was like a satellite office of his main one, and they'd stop in there like just to look at the ticker tape and see prices going on. And he's like, yeah, sure, I'll make some trades. And then the guy was making trades that were so large that that office got a call from the head office, and the guy was like, who is in there? Is Livingston there? Is he trading on vacation, that degen? And then the guy was, and then this is one of the lessons, which is he was looking at the ticker tape. He knew from his experience and everything else going on that he saw a price increase coming in this thing. But then he got the call from his buddy at the main office. I was like, dude, what are you doing? This thing's probably going to go down. Why are you touching it? And then he's like, yeah, but the numbers, all my indicators, they're looking good. And then he said, all right, fine. I'll listen to you. You're a friend. You probably have good advice. And then he ended up taking like a $40,000 loss off of it because he got out of a position that was already winning. So, yeah.
Isn't that isn't that the issue with like, say, crypto when you have the shoe shiner telling you what coins to buy? It's time to get out.
It's when the Uber drivers and the strippers start talking about crypto. It's like, yep. All right. Jim Cramer is also talking about it. Yeah, this is a top single. Get out.
I think it's his,
Get out when the normies are talking about it.
That's true. I got to say, though, I think there is a little bit of a crossover between these guys in the Wild West of the stock market pre-SEC versus where crypto is right now. because the market is still very new and very fresh. Shoot, Bitcoin was
for
made
sure.
back in what, 2011? It was
2009 is when Bitcoin
2009.
was.
Thank you. Yeah, so Bitcoin is almost 21. Bitcoin can almost drink. So, actually, math is hard.
No, we're looking at about 14 years old.
14.
No, 14.
All right.
Nice
We got
try.
a ways to go before
Calculator
we
out.
buy Bitcoin and beer.
Can't
Yeah,
fool me,
But
Zenith.
my point is that I think if you talk to some of the OGs in crypto, specifically like Bitcoin or even early folks in Hex, there's a lot of lessons that have been learned the hard way. And I think that for folks that we help onboard into the space, it's important to help teach these lessons so that we don't repeat them. Granted, I think we all are going to make some fucky wuckies or oopsie whoopsies at some point, but those
like
are just
that
lessons
word.
you got to learn the hard way.
Some
do
fucky
you guys
wuckies.
think?
Oh, demonetized. No money coming in on this stream, boys. That's all right.
Sorry,
Oh,
Josh,
no,
we
no,
killed
yes.
it.
Man,
Sorry. I'm not sorry. I'm never sorry. Screw it.
What do you guys think? Am I right on that? Do you see people learning the hard way in crypto? Are we in
Oh,
the
yeah,
stage of
for
the
sure.
market?
Well, most
Yeah, I
people
think
don't
so.
learn. Most people just get wrecked and they get out. The people that stick around, that take the licks and learn or learn from other people's licks. That's the best way to do it. Is watch other people, watch what gets them destroyed, learn from them. You're probably gonna still take some licks yourself, but you can avoid so much headache in life if you learn from other people's mistakes. Like if you pay for their consultations, if they've been wrecked before, you take their advice, like their evergreen advice, and a lot of this has to do with you have to be judicial in the people that you speak to and what you
absolutely.
listen to and everything, so but learn from the people who have failed before you, so that way you don't have to take their same lessons and make the same mistakes and just waste your own time and your own money, especially in this chaotic market.
That's true. I mean, not to self-aggrandize too much here, but that was kind of the point with book club. Is I know we have so much information from traditional finance markets in the past. There has to be a way that we can look at this information and this knowledge and apply it to this new world going forward. Granted,
Yeah, for sure.
a lot of it's going to be different. However, market fundamentals are shockingly similar, considering we're talking about this book from the 1920s that is relevant today and is still used heavily by Wall Street and even guys in the crypto sphere.
I mean, if you look at The Richest Man in Babylon, that was 5,000 years ago.
Yeah, that's the OG
Still
financial
relevant.
advice book, and it's
Yeah.
one of the best.
It's the way that humans tend to work is that we're very cyclical. Whatever works is going to work, even when the magic is gone, right? And we got everything down to just straight numbers. You find out that those straight numbers say the same thing. This particular way works. And there's nothing, it said there's nothing new under the sun. And it's because
there it is. Nothing new under the sun.
Yeah, and it's because we
Every
human
street
beings have
brother.
already figured it out. We already know what works, it's just when people try to reinvent the wheel, I just sit there and just face palm, because it's dude, you don't, why? Here's when I'm looking at a business, right? And they're a little bit behind, let's say, technologically wise, right? I'm just going to take what these businesses have always done, and I'm going to advance the technology, and then they'll become more efficient right? And then if they're more efficient, they end up making more profit. This has been done before. It's just there's new technology that makes things more efficient. It's as easy as that. And so when I take profits and I go to make my own business, it's going to be a software business doing that type of thing. Because
For sure.
There are so many companies that are just lagging right now. They're just now starting to get, some of this newer technology in, but now we're already moving on to tokenization and all that. Again, they're just so far behind. And I get it, they're big, so you can't just change everything instantly. But yeah, people got to stop trying to reinvent the wheel, man.
I'm gonna try to channel my inner Will here. If I was Will, I would say history might not repeat, but it certainly rhymes, and those who do not know the past are doomed to repeat its failures. Am I on there?
I stole that so hard from someone else, bro. But yeah, you nailed it there, dude. Pretty much
Beautiful.
everything that I say, I've stolen from somebody. It's all just collected into one brain. I don't even remember what's mine anymore. and what belongs to other people. So I'm just gonna like preemptively say to whoever of my mentors that are watching this, if I've stolen your work, I'm kind of sorry, but I'm kind of not, you know, because well, it is what it is. I'm just trying to make the world a better place. If you recognize your stuff though, feel free to drop a comment below and leave a link to your work, or at least make fun of me or something.
Fair enough.
Or I guess,
Alrighty, boys.
or I guess sue us.
I think Chad has something to say in the chat over here.
Chad Johnner Schwans, I am here to remind everyone that they're putting atrazine in the water and turning the frickin' frogs gay.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes,
Chad
they are.
is undefeated.
Oh, our chat's
Thank you for
undefeated,
thank you for using the correct word, because like as much as I love Alex Jones, his bombasticism like gets him a lot of discredit, and so like the times when he's right about something and he's saying it in a silly way, then people don't present it in like a what's the word for when you can like swallow something or like chew
The
something, like
context.
yeah, well, like palatable. That's the word. Yeah. When people
That's a
don't present
$2 word.
information in a palatable manner, then like I don't know, good old Alex. But yes,
True. Hey,
Chad,
shout out real
you're
quick
absolutely
to,
right.
Yeah, shout out to Willie B. Long 33. He says we learned from the best here. DC,
Oh hell yeah,
DCC
Billy.
and CC. Yeah. And then also, last shout out before we segue to on topic number 2, we got Moonpilled Rational Optics. He said, by the way, the K and I got another family member interested in crypto. Our boy is out here doing the work, one person at a time, building the tribe. So shout out to you, brother. Thank you so much for tuning in. You are one of our OG book club gang, and I appreciate you showing up, man. Looking forward to seeing you soon. All right.
Most excellent.
Perfect segue. Flawless. It's the best segues. I'm told. I hear they're the best. Nobody does it better. Anyways, topic number 2. We're going to be talking.
That's such a good segue.
We're going to be talking about the pros and cons of taking hot tips or financial advice. This is something that comes up in this book a lot, is that it's a lot of stories that talk about our main character or other people around him, and these random people will show up who have like hot tips of like, oh, I heard JD Rockefeller's buying up all this steel, or I heard that so-and-so is going to be like failing soon and whatnot. So the different characters in the book act on it in different ways. One of my favorite ones is the story of that old guy who gets the hot tip from one of his younger interns on the team, talking about JD Rockefeller buying up a bunch of this asset. And then the guy immediately says, okay, cool, thanks for the information. And then instead of buying some himself, he actually tries to short it real quick. And then the guy that gave him the tip is like, what the hell are you doing? You must hate me. You think I'm an idiot. I gave you this information and you're doing the opposite. And the guy goes, yeah, hold on one sec. I'm going to do this again. And then he shorts it again in front of him to look at the ticker tape and see what's going on. And then after that, he says, all right, your information's good. And then he slams a buy order and turns out to do really well. And the guy that gave him the tip just did not understand what the guy was doing was combining the information he got from him along with his own intuition, and he tests the market. What the guy was doing is he was testing with the selling short to see how much liquidity was in the asset. And then after that, he decided, okay, yeah, this looks good. The market is reacting the way that I think it should. Now we're ready to enter into this position. And then you can contrast that story with the last one I told about when Livingston was on vacation and his buddy told him like, hey, I think the stock's going down. You should probably exit your long or your buy position. And he lost money out of it. And that was one of the things where the guy said like, look, tips are great, but at the end of the day, I'm going to rely on my own intuition and figure it out for myself. So what do you guys think about getting tips in the markets?
I totally misinterpreted that first story when I read it in the book. I thought that he just straight up didn't listen to the guy the whole time and made a boatload of money on it. That's what I thought happened. So this is news to me. But I think I'm inclined to agree with Homeboy that says, you know, you should like function on your own info and you should not like take in tips as anything other than just like information that has to pass through your own filtration system before you act on it. So like him doing this play that I now understand, to kind of see if this information passes his test before he acts on it is the correct way to do things. All too often I see in the chat people saying like, hey, should I do this? Hey, should I do that? Hey, should I do this, that, and the other thing? And the real like there is no good answer to like people asking like, hey, should I buy this coin in particular at this time? hey, should I extract this amount of money at this sort of thing? Like we can give kind of generic recommendations and stuff, but like hashtag not financial advice, right?
Definitely.
Like we can give it advice on like how to build a good like process about which to live your life, but we can't tell you like, hey, buy this thing or hey, sell this thing, because ultimately nobody fucking knows. Like all that we're doing is we're all just telling each other campfire stories. We're telling ourselves these campfire stories because we believe this, that, and the other thing, and we have this, that, and the other information, and someone else is telling a different campfire story because they've got something else. And like really all we can do is just sit back and wait for the heat and see if we're going to get some s'mores or if the forest is going to burn down. So it's like like everyone tells different stories. Everyone has different information. Some people are actually like influencing the price, that like the insiders and stuff, and unfortunately we're not them. I would love to be. That'd be great. Truth be told, I probably wouldn't be doing a podcast if I was an insider. I'd probably just be making boatloads of money, but like here I am right now hanging out and telling stories to you guys. So for those of you who are asking like, hey, should I buy this thing now, my answer is always like, I think that this thing is either good or I think that it's bad in my particular instance, so I know what I'm going to do with it. What you need to do is you need to figure out what's your plan. What are you going to do? What is going to be your DCAs? What is your pullouts going to look like? Like the best I can do is tell you what my plan is and why I determined it. I can't tell other people what to do. Far too libertarian for that. So
Nate,
does that sort of answer your? Yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, that answers my question.
I got a little something on this, right? It's called trust, but verify, right? Just because somebody says go do something does not necessarily mean it's good. There are one of the strategies in crypto itself is to hype up a coin and say this is it, this is the bee's knees, and then you go and buy in, and then they sell on your head. Yeah,
wealth extraction.
Exactly.
They trick you into trusting them, so they can take your money away from you, right?
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And so what you need to do is you need to understand where somebody is coming from. I have somebody in the Liquid Loans chat right now who is saying a lot of very colorful words at me because he's sitting there trying to ask what to do. And I give him a little bit of an answer, but then I say, but you need to go do your due diligence, right? And actually go see what it is that your question is, right? Go research a little bit. And the guy literally just starts kind of going off on me. And I'm just like, hey man, you're not going to make it. If you continue to act this way, you aren't going to make it. And of course,
monogamy.
they don't want to hear that one. And obviously out of respect for Walrus, I'm trying to be as nice as possible. But some people, they just don't want to listen to that. They want to be told what to do. And then they want to get rich by being told how to get rich.
You don't get rich by following someone else's life, right? You get rich by solving problems. And if this guy doesn't understand that, I'm sorry, Nate. I didn't
No, it's frustrating. Believe me. It's pretty. Yeah. See, it's sad because the reason that we're doing this now is because we want to try and, I guess, save as many as possible, if that's the appropriate way of saying that.
I would say so.
We want to try and help out as many people as possible. That's for sure. And
ourselves first and foremost. We're helping us first, and we're talking about how we're helping ourselves, and hopefully that like our experience can bleed down and help somebody, right? Like, am I incorrect in that?
Well, here's the way that you do it, though, right? You first help yourself, and then you expand out to help others. Everybody here in the DGen Roundtable has had experiences in crypto. I myself, the biggest one was I was exit liquidity for quite a while. It's because I bought into, hey, just tell me what to buy, and then hype train, and then I buy, and all of a sudden, bam, everything's dropping, and well, now I'm in a hole, and that was happening constantly. So it's not until I did my own due diligence, learned from my mistakes, started learning about how to actually find things, look at things, and now next thing you know, well, unfortunately, I'm dumping on those people now, but those people are also not, well, they're not here at the DGen Roundtable getting lessons.
For sure. I got to say, when it comes to the idea of tips and utilizing tips, I think what you were alluding to is that in order to properly utilize a tip, you have to first have the solid foundation and the understanding behind it. Because if the tip is the entirety of your information and your basis for something, then that means you are now reliant upon that. And you don't really understand the underlying fundamentals. Versus if you're at the point where you can take these little like tips and rumors that are incoming and you get them through the news or through people or connections or whatever, it's not a basis for your decisions, but it's another data point to help you make one. So you are no longer relying on the tip to make the decision. You're using it as just like a small nudge or an indicator about a pre-existing notion or idea. I think this is one of the things that happens is that, especially in the modern age with the internet going on, is that I think people think that they know more information than they actually do because they feel like they can look it up easily. So what I would encourage is actually get some professional knowledge and understand fundamentals of systems. So that way, when you do get information, you're not relying on trying to go find it. You already have it built up inside of you. I think that's something that we see in the book is that one of the lessons learned is that you have to build up that basis of understanding the market that you're in before you can start acting on these tips. Because previously, the main character, when he got to the Wall Street phase, he was trying to utilize some tips. And then this is also when he didn't understand order execution and all the slippage that comes with it. He was just getting eaten alive with it because he was getting beat by these things he didn't see or he didn't know because they weren't integrated in his system. So build the system first, then utilize the tips. That's what I'm coming to out of this one.
And I actually got a personal thing on that as well.
Let's hear it.
Well, as of right now, I in the macro, obviously, AI is taking over and it's going to be taken over. And so, quite frankly, like if you're invested in crypto, if you're invested in any kind of AI stock, but also surprisingly, space, if you're invested in anything space related, because there's a lot of building going on. A lot of people don't know it. It's just appearing now. And if you were to invest in that, you would get very rich. But the thing is,
possibly not financial advice. Sorry, had to be that guy.
Not financial advice. But remember, everything is a guesstimation. You're just making the most accurate guess you can possibly make, right? Because nobody knows the future. Regardless, I personally want to invest in space, right? However, in looking at things, number one, I don't have a lot of money to throw around. Number two, I don't know how exactly I'd be able to really invest into like different projects and different companies and all that other than just the stock market itself. And so because I don't know that, I'm staying away from it. I would have to go down the road of learning all about it, right? Becoming like a VC in those areas. So I'm leaving it alone, and I'm just going to sit here with my thumbs twiddling, just looking at what I'm missing out on, I guess. But that is okay because I am invested in crypto. I do know stocks well enough. So obviously I will be doing good. I will definitely be doing good. That's for sure. And sometimes it's all about just accepting it.
Yep. Yeah, you got to master one thing at a time. You can't have too many things taking all of your attention. Otherwise, you turn into like a Swiss Army knife that's moderately good at a whole bunch of things, rather than like an exceptional master at one thing. There's many ways to skin a cat. Sure, people have different goal sets, but I think that's an excellent way to go about doing things, Nate. Master one thing at a time.
It also reminds me of Pepe too. What ended up happening with that? I remember that when Pepe took off, I was not confident enough in my skills to degen into it, and so I saw it originally. It was like only a few hours old, and I'm like, "Oh, it's Pepe! Yeah, cool. I want to get into this." And then all of a sudden, the nightmares from my 2 years previously started popping up. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I don't know this well enough yet. I don't think I'm gonna do anything with that." And it started taking off, but I decided to stay away from it. And even though that was a technical loss for me, there are so many other ones that didn't do that I could have gotten into. So I guess you could call those wins.
They definitely sound like wins to me. All right. Any other thoughts on taking tips and trying to integrate that into your own personal decision making? Or are we ready to go to our last topic? All right, let's
roll
get
it,
her
baby.
going.
Yeah. Oh no, we
All
lost
right.
Nate. Oh well, he'll be back.
He'll be right back. Third and final planned topic. After this, I will absolutely open it up to the floor or the chat. So if you have any questions about the book or any topics we're talking about, throw them in the chat. We'll get to you after this. So we're going into the later phase of the book that I mentioned previously, where the guy goes bankrupt and is in the 1910s, and it's that dry spell. The dude literally has a 3 to 4 year dry spell where he makes basically no plays and no gains, because the market just chops sideways and there's not enough fluctuation to make money off of bull or bear market cycles. But at this point, one of his buddies extends him that line of credit, and he documents this 6-week process where he had that line of credit and was waiting for an opportune moment so that he could reestablish himself and go from 0 to that first 1,000 and get back in the game. He talks about this as just such a excruciating time, because there's lots of different possible options that he had, but he really needed that one surefire bullet that was going to get him back on his feet. And it was 6 weeks of watching the market, waiting, not even testing the market, but just waiting for that right time. And this is when he talks about the desperation that had been built up. The dude had had the taste of the millionaire life previously, and now he had been flat broke for a hot minute, and honestly, it sounded like he was couch surfing a little bit. But at this point, it's talking about the idea that when you are desperate, your ability to make decisions, specifically when managing assets and money, when you live on your own assets and your money pile, it's so hard to have clear judgment and make those decisions. But eventually, the story goes that he found the right decision, it struck it big, and he was back on his feet after that. So having the ability to stick through those tough times and just not let yourself get overwhelmed with those emotions is absolutely critical to it. What do you guys feel about emotionality in trading?
Doesn't that sound kind of familiar about the bear that we just had?
Yeah, it does sound pretty close to it. Everybody was riding off that $69,000 Bitcoin high, and then everyone's just itching to get back into it. And where's my next fix? Where's the next altcoin?
And especially when you look back at this last February, right? Everything's pumping. It's a bull trap, and then it starts dropping again, and it just keeps dropping, and then all of a sudden it's just kind of just so boring. What's happening? I mean, what are we doing? Well, you just keep going to work. You keep building up the dry powder. Hey, I got a couple $100. Why don't I just throw it into something? Doesn't really matter what it is. Am I looking for? See, it's bad. It's really just flatlined when you're waiting for a small green candle, or sorry, a small red candle before actually putting your money in. When you're it's already at its lows. What are you doing? Does the difference between half a cent and or 0.0. Well, half a cent, 1
tenth.
I don't even know how you would say that, but yeah, basically, what's the difference between 0.005 and 0.006? When buying in the hex, there's a lot of people who are very really looking at that, and I started thinking, hey, you're below a penny, this is going to go to 50 cents, $1, somewhere in there eventually. It's really not going to matter too much, but people are just so bored, right? That they're zooming in so closely to look at that. And it's when in doubt, zoom out, right? I mean, I find it crazy when people
you're right.
bored.
The other half of that example you just gave is that technically, yes, if you are the difference between 0.005 and 0.006 is 20% increase. However, at the same time, like you said, you got to zoom out, because we're looking at going way above that. Granted, yes, you are technically getting it at a better price, and it can turn into multiple X's later on. However, at the same time, big picture, that's still a killing. That's still fantastic. I know I've been guilty of this a little bit in the past. Like I remember back like probably 6, 7, 8, 9 months ago, I was like heming and hawing over like $1,600 Ethereum. And I was like, are we going to drop again? And then I'm sitting here now. I'm like, man, I'm glad I just stuck it in because now we're sitting around 2,000. You can't really like sweat those little details. You just got to make that plunge. And I think that honestly comes from the other side of this equation, which is we started off the topic talking about emotionality and desperation or need, trying to force you to make more plays that might not be as good, that might be more desperate or degen. And this one is the opposite, where it's you are trying to analyze things so much and so hard that you're stopping yourself from making a decision.
Yep. Yeah, that's the thing right there. When you're scaring yourself for something that you have no reason to scare yourself over. But yeah, you got something, Will?
I was just going to say, like, a lot of our conversations on the DGen Roundtable, they all make their way back to either Gary Gensler or emotional control, right? So like this is such an important topic that people need to understand. Like, and when I say emotional control, I don't mean like you suppress your feelings and blah, blah, blah. No, you experience your feelings, you go through the process, you understand the inputs that your body and your chemical system is giving you, and then you take a thoughtful and directed and well-reasoned action, right? You are more than allowed to experience all the emotions and all the feelings that you want, but the actions that you take as a result of those feelings, those are the things that matter. You know, like if you feel sad and depressed, that's perfectly fine. That's your body saying, hey, I see red candles. And you could be like, hey, I'm getting this information. I see red candles. I feel sad. My instinct tells me to sell. But time, experience, other people, and my own conscious and like thoughtful brain is saying, hey, this is the opportunity to fucking stack those bags, bro. You know, so like a lot of the things that we talk about roll back to recognize the emotions that you're going through. Thinking about thinking, I think is what shoot, who is it that
Talking about
metacognition. Metacognition. It was Michael Sartain. Michael Sartain was interviewing
was this recently with Homath?
Yeah, he was interviewing Homath. Mike Sartain was interviewing Homath, and he was talking about the importance of thinking about thinking, right? So it's like I go through my lizard brain process, right? And then I think about that, and then I start to consider what are the ramifications of this whole process. So for those of you that are not in the DGen Roundtable community, go ahead, click that link below in the description. It'll take you over to our chat, the one that's t.me and a whole bunch of crap. Or you can put in bit.ly/degenerate_roundtable. That will take you directly to our Telegram chat. Go in there, look up Will Stevenson, search my messages, and then find the one that is, I posted a video of an interview with Michael Sartain and Homath. And they talk about the importance of like thinking through your emotions. Like it's fine to recognize them. It's fine to go through them. But like you have to understand why they're there, what our primal ancestors were doing when they were experiencing these things, and why these systems exist and what it's supposed to get you to do. And then you have to compare that against, you're like, hey, I live in air conditioning tax world where I can eat a cinnamon bun if I want to. I don't have to worry about the jaguar coming to rip my flesh off, right? Like I all I need to know is, do I buy these red candles or do I sell these green candles? You know, you don't want to buy the green candles and you don't want to sell the red candles. Mm-hmm. But anyways, join our community. Go find that video and watch that whole thing, because that is one phenomenal video. That made it onto my information to make yourself into a better person Excel spreadsheet. That was a good ass interview. Shout out to Mike Sartain and Homath.
Michael Sartain is very quickly becoming one of my favorite folks to listen to. I think I originally heard him talking about his he was actually on a live stream next to Charlie and Miguel in like a big roundtable discussion, and he was talking about his experience when he was in the Air Force with like Operation Red Flag and what that was like when it was like, all right, we're doing good for the first 5 days, and then they unleashed the F-22 Raptors on you at the last 2 days, and you're like, we're getting killed from nowhere. We can't do anything about this. And I was like, this is fantastic stuff. He's a great like military guy to talk about, but also I think his thinking about like how to operate in life is also fantastic.
Yep,
To
for sure.
get back to the point that you were talking about, I think you had a really good one about emotions, which is like, yes, you will feel emotions. However, there are things you can absolutely do to either curb it or prepare for it. I didn't personally do this, but I know other branches of the military do. Before you get sent on deployment, sometimes they'll actually put you through desensitization training, which is like, you are going to experience the horrors of war. We want you to see it beforehand, so that way when you do feel those emotions for the first time, it's not the first time that you've thought about it or how to deal with it or how to keep going when the mission gets tough. It's a real, it's something that we do in a lot of different areas about life. And I think the one that we're trying to talk about when it comes to investing is that understand the euphoria stage is going to happen. You're going to want to hold on to those bags as tight as you possibly can, but we've thought about this in the bear market and we've made the plan. We know we're going to feel it. And when we feel it, we've already thought about what to do. So when we do get to that point, everybody that's here right now, we're prepared and we're prepared to act. And I think that's the important part.
Well, when you talk about that, right? The thing that you need to plan, right? So you plan, but you need to plan an exit strategy. And you need to understand as well. Well, I've actually, so recently, right? I got my own experience on this one. It's not exactly like a ton of money. I threw a $100 scratcher at P-Die, right? I was like, hey, why not? Let's go ahead and have a play here. Let's have fun.
Nice play there. Nice play there, man.
Yeah. I made a good 5X on it. It was nice. I pulled everything out. And I was like, okay, well, that was pretty neat. And then I started hearing more and more about Atropa and P-Die and going to the moon, blah, blah, blah. It's gonna peg, blah, blah, blah. And I thought to myself, you know what? That would be a hell of a thing if it actually did peg, or at least got even anywhere near pegging to $1. So I threw another $100 into it, right? And I was like, yeah, why not? I got 100,000 coins now. That'd be wild if it actually pegged, and now I got $100,000 off of that 100. And I kind of thought like, hey, that's kind of a fun thing. Well, then I'm starting to see, pulse and everything is starting to pump up. And I'm looking at the macro and I'm like, oh boy, here we go. Like this is where things are going to start taking off. And I'm like, I'm not happy enough with my pulse yet. So what can I do? And I was looking at my P-Die, which from the 100 has now dropped to like basically $50, right? And I was like, you know what? I think I'll just take the hit and I'll switch it over to pulse, get more pulse. Yeah, let's go. And then I thought to myself, wait a minute. I literally said to myself, I want to see if I can get that pegging, the pegging, right? I want to see.
Jesus.
I want to see if we can do that. And so I didn't touch it. I didn't touch it at all, even though the FOMO was definitely there, and I very nearly did it. I was like, you know what? I had a plan, and let me stick to it. Let's see where it goes. And I suppose you could call it like a cope, right? But instead of thinking about like the how scared I am that I'm going to be missing out, fear of missing out, right? Instead, I was thinking, you know what? It would be a lot funner if I left this in here and see what happens to it. Because I did technically already make my principal back plus a lot more comparatively, right?
Yep.
And so I simply I rewired my brain to think, you know what? This is going to be a fun thing to do rather than, oh, I'm scared.
Hell yeah.
Perfect. Before we get off this too far, I think we keep coming back to this topic of emotions and what to do with it. And I think honestly, one of the reasons that we do is because this is something that has kind of fallen a little bit by the wayside in modern times, specifically with like how to deal with emotions. I know that on one side it's feel everything, on the other side it's suppress everything. However, the answer is honestly neither of them. Like you are going to feel all of your emotions, but I think that in my personal experience, professional opinion per se, is that there's a time and a place to feel it. You are going to feel everything, and that is the point of living life. However, there's a time and a place for everything. I'm going to try to earn a little street cred here, and I think that one of the great storytelling examples of this is from good old Naruto Shippuden, when Shikamaru's mentor Asuma gets killed, and then he goes through all the stages of grief as a teenager and is trying to understand it. And there's a beautiful scene where he's after his mentor dies, and he's just been like grieving for a few days, and he's trying to play like their Japanese version of chess with his father, and he's just not into it, and he just can't get into it, and he doesn't want to play because he's so heart-stricken about it. And his dad's like, yeah, there's a time to shut up and deal with it. However, we're alone. Let it out. This is life. And the dude just lets it out, and it's
a hell of a
heart-wrenching
scene
to watch. Yeah, and then
they
after that, he
did a
goes
great
on.
job with that one.
Yeah, for sure. Then after that, he goes on to actually avenge his mentor. And that's
I
how you
want
do
to.
it.
I want to do a little teaching lesson here. There we go. All right. So we've got the yin yang symbol right here. Okay.
Yep.
We're gonna pretend that yin is, oh my God, emotions, everything. Life is so wonderful. Life is also so horrible. And then we've got the yang. I don't know which one's yin, which one's yang, right? So I don't know that one's one of them, right? But like you've got the black with a little bit of white inside of it, right? You've got the order with a little bit of chaos, and then you've got the chaos with a little bit of order, right? The point of the yin yang symbol is not to choose the black and not to choose the white, but it's about the line that separates. I can't see. It's about the line that separates. The line that separates the two of them in the middle. There's my finger. All right, I have to like use my camera as a mirror here.
And farther away off of
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna look at it this way. All right, cool beans. Yeah. So the line that separates them in the middle here is the way. All right, and that's what you're supposed to walk in life. You're supposed to live a life of nuance, where you have a little bit of one thing, a little bit of other thing. You don't go all the way into the one. You don't go all the way into the other, but you live life with like a massive thing of one with a little bit inside, and a massive thing of another with a little bit of inside, and you have to balance in between the two of them. All right, so I'm just going to get a little bit of Buddhist or Taoist or whatever the hell yin yang is from. Sorry,
No,
big shout out to the guys who invented that one. Good job, guys. I wish I knew who you were and had a little bit more information before I speak out of my ass here on the internet.
The point of this whole rabbit hole, I'm going to try to get back on track here.
Yes, please.
Emotions happen, and it's okay.
Yes.
Know when to deal with it, have a plan to act on it when you feel them, but at the same time, it's a part of life, and there's absolutely a time to revel in it and feel those emotions and let it out. I'll tell you right now, come 2025, for the next time we have a big meetup, that's going to be top of the bull market. Hopefully, theoretically, we'll see. At that point, I bet I'll probably be 95% out of all my positions, and I'm going to be ready to party. I'm going to be stoked, and I'm going to be happy that I'm stoked, and I'm going to be ready to share it with everybody that's around me so that we can all party together. There's
probably
absolutely
you to buy me drinks.
Absolutely. This is probably going to happen.
I'm going to probably only be about 50% out of my positions, or maybe if I'm lucky, 20% out of my positions. I'll still be 80% in. And then we'll see what happens in the next 4 years after that. I don't know. We'll see. I haven't really gone through I haven't crunched all the numbers quite yet.
Macro's has definitely got some interesting things up until right around 2030. There's a building period right now, and this is man, there's a lot of crazy stuff going down, a lot of planning.
Yeah, we shall see.
Absolutely. I will say I did just make a few more long-term hex stakes the other day before we had that T-share rate rise. And just thinking about the future, like, I'm excited for it. I was thinking about the different cycles, and I tried making on my stakes around those cycles. So I have a large stake coming out in 2025 for this cycle. I have one coming out in 2029 for that cycle, and I got another one for 2033 for that cycle. I'm not quite Quattro Cinco gang right now, but I'll be honest, when I went down to the Pulse Chain Tour and I talked to RG3, I drank the Kool-Aid a bit, and I was like, all right, this feels good. Hex is a way to lock up something for the future and feel good about it, and like teach yourself to feel good about it too.
And that right there is another example of emotion stuff, right? So going to these meetups and feeling these euphorias is just as important as recognizing, like, hey, like that there's going to be the depression points, is going to be the euphoria points. You know, when I first learned about Hex, I got super euphoric and I staked everything out. Quattro Cinco all the way, baby. Like every single little bit that I invested, I was like, all right, 15 years making this decision right now, I'll never regret it. And then it's like, oh shit, I have to wait 15 years to get this money. I'm gonna be like 45. Well, I guess that is what it is, you know. So it's like sometimes we do some pretty silly short-term things under emotional I don't want to say duress, under emotional influence, and sometimes we do some pretty wise things. So only time will tell which of these actions turns out to be wise and which ones turns out to be silly. But I don't know. I think it's good to feel these emotions of like hope and disbelief, euphoria and depression, and just kind of like recognize it like, oh, this is what everyone else is feeling too. In order to fade the crowd, I need to know what they're thinking and just do the opposite thing.
For sure. All right. So real quick, I want to finish up this last topic point, and then after that, we can throw it to the chat or you guys if you want, or we can just wrap after that. We've been going for about an hour and 10 minutes. So the last point I want to get to with this whole emotionality thing is in the book, the guy lives off of his own portfolio. So he needs that money to live, which means he needs it to do well. That is definitely contrary to everything that we talk about here on the channel, which is that, especially the stuff that when I personally invest in crypto, stock market, real estate opportunities, anything, that money is not crucial for me to live. It is truly disposable income. And because I can separate my emotions from it, it's like, I don't need this. I don't have to worry about it. It's kind of out the door. That is one of the things that gives me a little bit of peace of mind and a little bit of separation from trying to make bad plays. What do you guys think?
What's the question?
I don't know. What is the question there? Fuck.
So I'll go ahead and take this.
Yeah, go ahead, Nate.
Thank you.
So when you're looking at, what is it that you can separate, or specifically like money that you need to live on versus money that, you're able to make grow. And it's okay whether or not you have it with you or not. It's disposable income, aka you can lose it. That is just fine. Looking at my own life, right? I have purposely dropped as many bills as possible. I've dropped as many expenses as possible because I know the future of, or at least best guesstimate of the future in the crypto realm. And I've said to myself, enable for me to have a better future for me and my family, I must sacrifice a little bit more now. So that way tomorrow I can have just a better life. And so in dropping as much as I can, I end up with more disposable income. It means I can put more in that I'm willing to lose. And the idea that a lot of people do not understand is money you're able to lose. What is it? There was a guy I heard in the crypto space who took out I think it was like $10,000 or something, loan from his family. And bought the top of Bitcoin at I think it was like 64,000 or something. And of course, after that, it just starts dropping. And you look at someone like that and you're like, okay, dude, whenever you're pushing that green button, right? The buy button, are you saying to yourself, all right, here we go, let's have fun with this? Or are you saying, oh boy, it better do good, otherwise, I'm screwed? If that's the case, you're in trouble and you will end up getting wrecked. There's a few lucky people, right? But there's a lot of other people that are just, and people just don't understand this. And it's strange that they don't understand it. I guess that's following the crowd mentality. As you say, do the opposite, right? Too much hype, not enough actually being on planet Earth, too much into the clouds, right? So I don't know. People really need to understand trying to learn what it is that they're throwing their money at. Because quite frankly, if you have no idea what you're throwing your money at, don't do it.
Just buying scratchers at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right, Will, I got something for you. I'm going to give a quick shout out to our Telegram. We had one of our members, Kevin G. He raised a great question, which is his goal is to use the gains from Hex at some point in the near future to start a business. This is a great example of not necessarily using money to live off of, but it's not also completely separating yourself from this money and it's this thing that you can no longer access. It's you have put this money into an ecosystem where it no longer is for consumption, but these are building blocks. The idea is that you're going to keep stacking. The goal is not to just one and done, hit one bull cycle and then call it a day. I think a lot of us are either trying to have that foresight to think multiple cycles down, or start thinking about where we can shift some of this some of these resources and finances and this energy. So personally, I also like the idea of taking some of the gains that you can have with crypto and moving it to other places. What do you think are Will? What do you think are some good uses for money that goes into the investment portfolio? Like,
Okay,
once
so
you make
there's
the gains in the bull cycle, what do you do with it?
Yeah. So one thing that I think is very important is that people. So I'm going to boil it all down to first principles, right? There are two core survival principles that human beings have. One is to continue to survive, and the second one is to reproduce. These are things that our genetics want us to keep doing as we live all through life. And so, because that's what our genetics, it's not like I was having this talk with my brother. It's not like our genetics are just little tiny dudes inside of our bodies saying like, I want to live, I want to live. No, it's just like this. There's this pattern that's coded into our DNA that reinforces these two things, right? So survive, reproduce. Okay. So we're going to move up past that. All right. In order to survive, what do I need to do? I need to obtain resources. I need to obtain shelter, or rather, I need to obtain shelter. I need to obtain oxygen. I need to obtain consumables, so like body fuel, and some sort of reproductive agency, however you want to call that, right? Whether it's getting a wife, or flying down to a country where there's just tons of prostitutes and cranking out a son, or whatever, whatever your case may be, right? But in order to do those things, like you have to be able to manipulate your surrounding environments, right? So we would call that work. We would call that, purpose. Like if I am cold and I need a fire, then I need to go out and grab my stone axe, chop a tree down, and burn it, right? So that way I can generate heat. The thing that we do with our lives nowadays, whether we're working at Starbucks or working at McDonald's or like, or being a submarine or flying an airplane or something, right? It's just a couple steps removed from chopping that tree down directly in order to obtain the heat. Nowadays, we sell the hamburger so we can get the money, so we can buy the heat from the electric company that makes the heat, which is run by some guy that's working there, right? You need to have some sort of thing that you can do in life that will generate you resources. You need to have some sort of ability to acquire resources. Once you solve that problem, right? If you make a lot of money in the cryptocurrency sphere by we'll call it gambling, right? Or speculating or investing in something that's valuable, right? If you are able to solve your ability to generate resources, then now what you have is a whole bunch of time and a meat sack of a body that you can use to go out and do things. You can learn stuff. You can make the world a better place. You can become a mentor. You can figure out what is it that you're passionate about, right? Like everybody needs a purpose, right? There's a couple different things that you could categorize this as, whether it's a job, a hobby, a like being a teacher or like a parent, like helping life continue to exist on Earth. Like human beings need some sort of inner drive, there has to be some sort of problem that we're solving at all times. Otherwise, we generally lose the will to live, Like you'll see this in retired people all the time, people that get out of the workforce that have been doing their 4 for 40 their whole life, where they're working 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year for 40 years of their life. And then they get out of this job thing and they're like, okay, I'm finally free. And then they vacation for a little bit and it's fun and they do their thing. And then it's like, okay, what next? I can't just like spend my whole life vacationing now. Like they generally get back into the workforce, or they do volunteering, or they chase something that they're passionate about. Was that, Nate?
There's always a bigger mountain.
Yeah, there's always a bigger mountain. You need to have another bigger mountain. So something that people need to think about in this crypto game is, hey, at some point I'm going to get rich, hopefully, right? At some point I'm going to get rich, but I'm still going to have all the time that I don't necessarily have right now. Nate, I think you were the one that said this on our podcast. You use the money that you get from cryptocurrency to buy your time back, because right now a lot of us, we are trading. Yeah, we're trading our time for money by working in the working world. We are taking our time, because like people who aren't self-employed or have their own job or something, you're basically going to someone else. You're saying, hey, I have this set of skills, but I don't know how to market it to the world to give the world like value other than like going through your company, that you can then use my skills to give me a fraction of what my skills generate, so that I can, you know, subsist off of that, right? But if you can solve the subsistence question, you still have a set of skills and you still have a passion, you still have something that you like to do. So what you need to now do is, once you have solved the money problem, is you need to solve your purpose problem. It's like, do I enjoy cutting grass? Do I enjoy folding paper planes? Do I enjoy teaching people how to shoot? Do I enjoy running marathons? You know, like, you have to figure out something to do with your time, something that like you can, like, people get satisfaction from making the world a better place. At least that's what I think, right? So you got to figure out what's your purpose that makes the world a better place. You got to figure out, like, what would you do with your time if you weren't getting paid for it, right? If you want to play video games your whole life, go for it. If that's the thing that you think makes the world a better place, like, I would probably disagree, but hey, you know, I'm not you. You do your thing. But this is what people need to do once they make their fat stacks. Like, they need to figure out they need to figure out their survival situation first, and you need to have a massive amount of money in order to just say, okay, now I don't have to work for the rest of my life. If I'm 30 years old, you got to figure it's going to cost me, we'll say, just averaging with inflation, we'll say it'll cost me like, you know, $100,000 a year to live, right? So if I'm 30 years old and I plan to live another 60 years or fucking 70 years, right? What's 770 times 100,000? That's 7 million. So I need $7 million to retire. And that's presupposing that things don't get crazy expensive and, you know, taxes don't take all my money and bloody. So I need $7 million after taxes, right? If I just don't ever want to work again. If the number that I get out of crypto is less than that, then what I need to do with my crypto is I need to figure out, how can I invest this money that is less than $7 million in such a manner that I can not only do what I love, but I do what I love that also generates money. If I want to like sling cheeseburgers for the rest of my life, then I need to figure out, what can I do with my chunk of money that's less than 7 million in order to put myself in a position where I can successfully sling cheeseburgers for the next 70 years of my life, or use that money as a mechanism to get me to that $7 million point, right? And so you can replace that $7 million with whatever you want, whatever age bracket you're at, however much you want to spend a year. Just, I encourage you to do the math for our listeners at home. Do the math, figure out what you want to do, and you know, stuff like that. I'm sorry, guys, I'm monologuing here. Do you guys have any thoughts on this?
No, that was fantastic.
Yeah,
I got a thought on it. So when you're talking about purpose and building stuff, to get back to Kevin G's question, his goal was to use crypto to start a business. One of the things that you'll probably hear people talk about when it comes to investing and like buying companies and whatnot is that make sure you're not buying yourself another job, because that's entirely possible. However,
Correct.
If you want to buy yourself another job, aka start a business, that's perfect. It's fantastic. And again, it is purpose and it's something to do. You might not be getting like stupid rich on this first cycle, or maybe even the second. However, like you said, hopefully, if we truly are early and we stick to good principles, we will end up in that space where, we have the investments has become that cash flow revenue that is now worth more than my time slinging pizza. Shout out to Gains by Casey.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think on that same point, though, I will say this. This is something I'm going to reference The Richest Man in Babylon. Throw it back. One of the ideas from that book was that make sure you're investing in things that you actually understand and that you know about. Go back to the story where he works with like the cobbler to go buy jewels in a foreign country and bring it back to sell here. Neither of them knew about jewels. They got scammed. However, the guy who worked with the shield worker, he was like, I need more bronze. Can we invest in bronze over here, bring it back, and I'll make more shields? Yeah.
Bro.
He knows what he's
talking about. Isn't that like the Uber driver talking about Bitcoin? When your Uber driver is talking about Bitcoin, don't listen, because it's a cobbler talking about how he's going to buy some jewels.
Exactly. And what that is, honestly, is it's the reason that it is a top signal for a market is that people look at this thing, they don't understand what's going on, and it looks like a legitimate get-rich-quick strategy, so they're trying to get into it. If you're invested in the space, you know that's not what this is. One of the quotes that I've heard is that we're not betting on getting rich. We know we're going to get rich, and this is the plan to do so. It's just a matter of time. So
I like that.
I love how you say planning, because my whole idea, again, buying back time, right?
Yep.
That's my entire plan. and that's everything for me. I've heard a lot about like, oh yeah, you need like $7 million to retire, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, no, actually that's not true. I've done my own math. Technically speaking, it's right around just $500,000 that I could use.
There you go.
I'd be good. Now,
there you go, bro.
But here's the thing. When they say the 7 million, they're talking about living a comfortable life, let's say, right? Well, for me, I'm just trying to buy back my time so that way I don't have to wake up and go to the same job every single day with a boss and a company that does not care about me, right? Instead, I'm able to use the long 12 hours or 10 hours or whatever it is that I'm working to instead do what it is that I love to do. So ultimately for me, it's buying my time back. So that way I can do what I would rather want to be doing and then have that be my job, right? And in fact, I've got a plan where when I do finally retire, I'm not going to do anything for like a month or two. I'm going to be I've told Cassie this. I'm going to be the most lazy person ever. I'm just not doing anything. I'm going to make myself so bored that I'll never be lazy again, because I know who I am. And if I am so lazy that I'm boring myself to death, right? I'm going to start going hard on everything. And I'm going to use that as a springboard to then start doing what it is that I actually want to do. And what I want to do is try and improve the world, obviously, make the world more efficient, use technology to help people, right? And that's ultimately what I want to do. And it all starts with, gaining that capital and with the massive amounts of X's that you can get in this brand new unseen world called crypto, right? New monetary system that I'm going to be leveraging that and able to make my dreams come true. But hopefully through my dreams, I can start making everybody else's dreams come true as well. And that's how that's going to happen.
Perfect. All right, boys. I think we are coming to the end of our show here. Let's go around the table with some last thoughts. Any last thoughts on the book, or if you want to talk about what we're building towards in the future? I'll say it personally, similar to Kevin G. I want to use some of my gains to invest a little bit in real estate and get something going in that market. But at the same time, I'm not trying to over diversify myself and dilute everything. I would love to do the real estate investing and then, just like Kevin G, use some of that money to start a business. And then I got to say, I really like I know this is definitely one of the fluffier books that we've covered so far. However, I think the lessons are good. And if anything, this is just another good example of why trading is going to get you wrecked.
Yep.
All right, Will,
Absolutely.
What you got?
I got nothing left on final thoughts on the book, and I think I spoke quite at length on what I think about life. So I'll let Nate go, and then I suppose what are we gonna round robin our closeout?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, no, don't trade or leverage, guys. Like, you don't really need to be doing that. If you understand something enough, go ahead. But you need to actually have an understanding. If you're literally gonna push that button and be like, "Ooh, I sure hope it goes up," otherwise, I might be in trouble. Or I really don't want to lose this money. Don't push the button. That's dumb. Don't be dumb. And if you're dumb, you lose.
Stop it.
Sure. All right, Will, where can people find you?
All right. People can find me at Linktree/Will Stevenson, all one word. My socials are down below in the description. Some things that I'm working on. My developer Arx Hominum, big shout out to him for my website, the Rule Zero archive. For those of you guys that listen to Rollo Tomasi, Ryan Stone, Sterling Cooper, Troy Francis, John Fitch, Paul Benjamin, Paul Bauer, and Jack Napier, I believe I said all you gentlemen. For those of you guys that listen to the Rule Zero podcast, if you go to rulezeroarchive.com, the website is up and running. It's also, you can download it on your phone if you access it through Chrome. It is available as an app for those of you who have an Android phone. If you have an iPhone, I don't really know how that works. Good luck to you. But the Rule Zero Archive website is up and running. So if you guys want to listen to some fantastic podcasts from some red pill gentlemen, me and my dev have built an archive, and it's fantastic. It's got all their episodes. It's super duper cool. Give little bios about the guys. Super awesome. I'm very proud of it. So that's some stuff that I've been working on. I'm also working on the Hexagon Meetup template thing. That is essentially an Excel spreadsheet. If you're a Hexagon, if you own cryptocurrency, or if you're just a crypto enthusiast, or if you just want to meet cool people who are also into crypto, then what you can do is up in your URL bar in your computer, you can type bit.ly/hex_meetup_template, and that will take you to this Excel spreadsheet. Anybody can open it, anybody can edit it. So, I would ask that you guys be polite when you're editing it and don't delete everyone's stuff. But what you should do is you should put your name in there. You should put your location in the United States or all across the world. This is basically a place for people who are crypto aficionados that want to meet up with each other and have no way of communicating or doing so. This is a centralized location for you to be like, hey, I'm traveling through the States. This is what I do all the time. Right now, I'm in Temple, Texas. So if you guys want to hang out in Texas, hit me up. All of my socials are down below. And again, you can find me at the link tree. Hit me up on any one of my socials, and I will do my best to come see you while I'm down here in Texas for the next month or so. I don't know how long I'll be here, but I'm going to be traveling through the States doing my ironworking stuff. And if you want to meet up with any other Hexicans, like, feel free to reach out. I just hung out with like a super cool dude, Crypto Kool-Aid, down here in Texas, and man, that guy is awesome. He is a Hex OG. He is brilliant. He's a savant. Like, he knows just about all there is to know about Hex, about the Richard Hart ecosystem. He doesn't do a whole lot of streaming or anything, but man, what a cool freaking guy. I was lucky enough to hang out with him because he reached out to me because of this thing that I made, and the fact that I was on RG3's stream with Casey and with Tracker. So I mean, super cool time. And again, that link is bit.ly/hex_meetup_template. That's where it is for now. I'm going to keep that bit.ly whenever I make my final product, and it'll just redirect to a different website. But that's what we got. Nate, what do you got going on, bro?
Well, quite frankly, out here just trying to help people as much as possible. Get into our Telegram. It's right in the description below. We got the link to it. Get in there. I'm already going through a lot of people in other chats that, like, they don't understand. Liquid Loans, I got a guy cussing me out because I'm telling him, hey, maybe you should do a little bit of research. Just don't be looking for a handout. I got banned from 9inch because I was telling people some of the red flags out there, and they really, really, really did not like me trying to help people not get wrecked. So yeah, get into our Telegram. It's a very honest place. There's a lot of good people in there for sure. But with that, yep, my Setting Man YouTube channel is going to be popping up here. I got a lot of interesting things, a lot of interesting topics that I want to talk about. The very first one is going to be the end of crypto. There's a very real possibility that the end of technology altogether of the human race might possibly happen here at any point in time, and we would not know about it until the day of. Very scary stuff. They sent out a satellite over to the sun, and it's still going to take a few years to get there, but it's going to be 1 million miles from the surface of the sun. And it's literally the entire reason for it is to give us an early warning when this will happen, because it's not a matter of when, or it's not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. So it's going to be a very interesting stream. I'm still got to set some stuff up for it, because obviously this is going to be like the first time I ever do live streaming on my personal channel. But other than that, Zenith, take us out.
All right. I do just want to give a huge thank you to everybody for stopping by and spending time with us on a Friday night talking about a book from the early 1900s. So we do have Crypto Boogie in the house, also a fellow Hex/Pulse Chain streamer. Glad to see him here. We also got Benny Blanco. Thank you so much. And Elaine LePage. Thank you so much for showing up as well. We appreciate everybody coming out, and genuinely, we appreciate you spending your time with us. Announcements for next book club. We're going to be doing what was the recommendation from RG3. We're going to be doing The Speed of Trust. I had a chance to actually go through most of this already, and I got to say, this is a fantastic book. It talks about the cores of trust, how you can use it in your life or a community or a corporation or a market as a whole. And I think this is especially relevant to the crypto world. So huge thank you to RG3 for giving us the recommendation. It's good stuff, and we're looking forward to it. Additionally, after that, we already have another book picked out by special request because we're going to use it as a tie-in for a guest episode. We're doing How to Avoid Trouble with the IRS by none other than Christine Stevenson. You may recognize some familiarity with another one of our co-hosts there. Will, do you have any information about this fantastic author?
Yeah, so that's my lovely mother, Christine Stevenson. She's an enrolled agent with the IRS. She does a lot of consulting work for people starting up small businesses. So if you need help with your taxes and you're a small business owner, then feel free to hit me up and I will gladly give you my mother's contact information. I don't have it on me right now, and she's literally just right back behind in the house, but I think she might be asleep or something. I'm not really sure, but hit me up if you need tax advice and you're a small business owner. My mom can help take care of your tax problems and everything. But yeah, we're going to be interviewing her, I believe, on December 27th. And so I don't know what day we're doing the book club, but that's the day that we are scheduled to interview. It's all locked and loaded, ready to roll.
For sure. The goal with having her come on the show and also the guest episode is that taxes is something that's definitely a big question mark in the crypto space. However, she does specifically focus on small businesses, and this folds very nicely into the small business stream that we had last week, which was fantastic. If you haven't seen it, go check out the replay. It was some good stuff. That is all we got there. I'm Zenith. You can find me on Twitter at Hex Space Force or Instagram and YouTube at Hexco Space Force. This is the DGen Roundtable. Thank you, as always, for stopping by. We will see you on Sunday for our usual episode. Until then, adios.